Welcome to Business Buying Strategies, the UK's #1 podcast for smart business buyers. Hosted by Jonathan Jay, one of the world's leading authorities on small business acquisition. This show helps you buy your first business without risking your own money. Ready to get started? Don't forget to grab your free business buying toolkit, packed with reports, videos, and cheat sheets at dealmakerspodcast.co.uk.
Hi, this is Jonathan Jay, and welcome to Business Buying Strategies, the #1 podcast for people interested in buying a business without risking any of their own cash. Now, every few weeks, I run a coffee morning on Zoom with about 25 attendees answering their questions on business buying. This week, you can listen in to part of that Coffee with Jonathan webinar. Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Great to have you all here. Thank you for being here on time. I can see people joining us every few seconds as well, which is absolutely brilliant. So let me tell you what this is all about if you haven't been with me on one of these before. This is essentially your chance to ask me questions about buying a business, maybe about selling a business, but primarily we'll focus on buying businesses and to find out the things that you want to know, because quite often there are some misconceptions and misunderstandings, so things that would be really helpful for you to know. And you know what? The internet is a really poor way of finding all this information. So I can provide you with what's happening right now, 2025, 2026, to set you up for success. Michael says, how long does it take to buy a business? Okay, well, it depends, Michael. Have you seen my wet spaghetti, dry spaghetti analogy? Let me explain that to you. So if you've got a bowl of cooked spaghetti, wet spaghetti, and you hold on to one end of one piece of spaghetti, you try and find the other end by tracing it up and down, around and around, it will take forever, right? But if you've got a piece of dry spaghetti, well, it's really easy to find the other end because it's a straight line. So how long does it take to buy a business? Depends whether you're using the wet spaghetti route or the dry spaghetti route, okay? So wet spaghetti is where you make it up by yourself. You just watch videos on YouTube for all different places, trying to piece it all together, and it never really quite makes sense. Dry spaghetti is when you've got a system, a plan, you start here, you finish here, you go in a straight line. So Michael, the answer to your question is depends whether it's dry spaghetti or wet spaghetti. If you're using dry spaghetti, the dry spaghetti method, we will call it from now on, then about 2 hours a week, which is why so many of my mastermind clients start off as employees. They have full-time jobs. They buy a business in their spare time so that they can leave that full-time job and replace it with a profit from the business, and always a lot more than what they were earning. Okay. Gail says, hi, Gail. Good morning. Does it matter what size of business you start with? Yeah, it does. I think it matters a lot. Let me tell you the mistake that most people make. They go too small. They go way too small. And they go small because it's in their comfort zone. Because usually the biggest number in people's minds is their mortgage, the value of their house, maybe. Okay. Those are typically the biggest numbers in most people's minds. So they see those as big numbers and they buy a business that has annual revenues that are similar to those numbers. So you might have a business annual revenues of a couple of 100,000 or 300,000 or 400,000 or whatever the number might be. It's way too small. It's way too fragile. All it takes is a couple of staff members to leave, lose a couple of customers, and you've got a business that's going down, downwards like this. So you need to start with something, Gail, that is sufficiently substantial that works even when the seller, the owner, has sold it and they've gone. So buying a business that depends upon the owner is never a good idea. And it's always the small businesses that depend upon owners. So Gail, let me know if that's helped you. Let me know if that's answered your question. And it's a great question, by the way. And I always think that when someone asks a question like that, there are 20 people thinking exactly the same thing, thinking in their mind, but haven't asked it, okay? Don't be the person who sits back and just listen to everyone else's questions. I want you to ask me questions as well. Okay, loads of questions coming through now. Mike, I'll get to you. Isata, I'll get to you. Gail says, yes, thank you. Storm, I'll get to you. Good name. Right. Satpal says, how plausible is it to do an overseas acquisition? Now, Satpal, does that mean you're in the UK and you buy somewhere else? Or does that mean you're somewhere else and you want to buy in the UK? Or Have I just, is the UK not part of this at all? So Satpal, what's your situation? Where are you and where do you want to buy? Well, you're sending that to me, or Satpal's fast, eh? He goes, I'm in the UK and looking in Singapore. Yep, that's fine. You have people in Singapore doing the diligence for you. You have a Singaporean lawyer or a lawyer based in Singapore. No big deal at all. We've had people in New Zealand buy in the UK, with people buy in the UK, buy in Australia. I mean, every combination. I know what people are saying, well, have you got someone who's bought a business in Germany based in Belgium? I mean, whatever the combination, we've had that combination. It really makes no difference. The principles are the same. So Satpal goes on to say, and it's a really good question, can I raise finance here for the purchase? Well, if the business is located in Singapore, if you think about it, finance needs security, and that's not great security if it's the other side of the halfway around the world. Okay. So the answer is no. That would have to be done in Singapore or wherever the destination country is. Okay. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Just give me a question. He says, understood. Fantastic. Great. Next question. Next person. Next question. Keep them coming. There's no limit, by the way, to the number of questions you can ask. It's open to you. Storm says, in the purchase of a business, the way you propose it, effectively a leveraged buyout, Jonathan. Maybe. It depends. There isn't just one way of buying a business. A leveraged buyout is where you leverage the assets in the business. So you borrow against those assets to provide you with the money to buy the business. So we do that sometimes, and other times we don't. I'd say we do that probably about 33% of the time. About one in three deals look like that. Yeah, my mastermind clients have done hundreds over the years. No one's ever written down and kept precise stats, but it feels like about a third. Yeah, good terminology. You're clearly doing your homework there, Storm. I like that. Thank you. Mike, hi, Mike. In some of your videos, Mike says, you talk about volume and it being a numbers game. What is the typical outreach numbers to get good deal flow? All right. If only I could give you one answer to that question, well, we'd all be sorted, right? So basically what Mike is saying is, how many business owners do you have to contact to find the right business to buy? Well, it depends how picky you are for a start, how specific your criteria are. If you're looking for a very specific business in a very specific area of a very specific size, doing a very specific thing, you're making it difficult on yourself. If you're more open-minded to different types of business, that makes it an awful lot easier. Definitely, the more people you talk to, the more likely you are to find the right deal. But then I've got examples in Mastermind of people who contacted 300 businesses, one person responds, and that's the business that they buy. So I'd love to say, Mike, there's a rule. There isn't, except why not multiply your chances by speaking to as many people as possible? Don't feel as though you can have two conversations and your job is done. I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like going to buy a house, isn't it? Buy a property for yourself. You might strike it lucky, view one property, and that's the property that you love and you buy. Or you might go and see 20 properties. So, Mike, it's kind of horses for courses, okay? Mike, let me know if that answers your question. I can see loads of questions coming through, which is absolutely brilliant. Keep them coming, guys. There's loads. Mike says, thanks, Jonathan. Okay, right. So I need to speed up because there are so many questions here. Okay. Gail says, can you buy a business and it runs well with no need for you ever to be there? Yes, you can. Thinking of two mastermind clients who teamed up to buy a business, 3.5 million of annual revenue, 950,000 pounds of annual profit. They've got a great general manager in the business. They have no background in that sector at all. And it really does run without them. I mean, you don't want to be an absentee landlord. You want to, if you just vanished off the face of the earth, I think that would be a bit strange. And quite frankly, if something's making you nearly £1 million a year, turn up sometimes. Go and say hello to everyone. Be nice to everyone, because it would be a bit odd if your investment that makes you £1 million a year was not looked after. So look after it. But can you buy businesses that run well without you? Of course. There's loads of businesses that run very well without you. And I just saw a question that relates to that. Let me find it, because if I can tie those two together. Here we go. Yeah, Isata says, how can you invest, or how or what? how can you invest in a business? Oh, no, I misunderstood the question. How can you invest in a business when you have financial difficulties? Right. I thought your question, sorry, when I saw it earlier, was should you buy a business with financial difficulties, which is the opposite of what Gail's just asked. And the answer is no. The answer is absolutely no. If you want to create problems in your life, buy a business with financial difficulties. But that isn't actually Asata's question. I'm asking a question that I've been asked. The question Asata has is, how can you invest in a business when you have financial difficulties? Well, first of all, you're not investing. Investing implies you take some money and you put it into the business. We're not doing that. We're buying a business, but we're doing it without putting any of our own cash in. Now, if you're buying a business and you have financial difficulties, this is the fastest way to solve them. So we're not investing as in, putting our life savings into something. That's the exact opposite, actually, of what we are doing. Isata also says, and I'll move on to someone else, would you advise buying a business in an industry you do not have any prior knowledge of experience in? No, I would advise you to buy in an industry that you do have knowledge of. And in the absence of that, then do something that you don't have knowledge of, but you can learn quickly. So always, best advice is stick to something that you know. But if you're one of these people who knows nothing, so I know nothing, Jonathan, I don't know anything about anything. I find that hard to believe. But if I don't know anything about anything, then what I would be doing is I'd be looking for something else that I can learn, or I can put in someone who knows how to run that sort of business because they have a track record in it. Or I would find a partner, not a business partner, but someone who can partner with me as like a consultant who really understands that type of business. Okay. They're great. It's great questions. Let me jump to someone else. Satpal. Hi, Satpal. Satpal says, I'm currently in the process of buying 51% of a business with the current owners staying on to grow it with us for a bigger exit down in 3 to 5 years. How do I best secure the transaction to make sure the previous owners stay motivated and make sure they hit profit target so we achieve our goals? Hope that makes sense. Okay, I understand what you're doing. You're buying majority stake in the business, keeping the owners in. They continue to build the business. I think that the 51-49, you've got a quite a small stake in the business there. Typically in that sort of transaction is 80%. So you buy 80% and they stay on with 20%. But there's nothing wrong with what you've done. It's just slightly different to the norm. You're asking me, how do I best secure the transaction to make sure the previous owners stay motivated? Well, presumably, if they're not going to be motivated with 49% of the business, quite frankly, nothing's going to motivate them. How do we make sure they hit the profit target? Well, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could guarantee that profit targets are going to be hit? Business owners, you know what I mean? It's just not possible. I think you're being very generous. I would be linking their equity to performance. But Satpal, presumably, you've got a great lawyer who's advising you on that because it's a reasonably standard expectation to motivate the owners who in this case are staying in. Ravi says, hi, Jonathan. What do you think of this deal? I'm looking to buy an HVAC business. Okay, net profit 438. Well, hang on. So it's got an EBITDA of 738, but net profit of 438. All right. Is it a good deal? It's starting to sound like in an HVAC business. I've got mastermind clients buying HVAC businesses. Sounds like the gap between earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, and net profit is pretty big. Owner retirement sale, happy to stay with the business. Can I just say something? Every retiring owner says that they're happy to stay with the business. You'll probably never see them past a couple of days again. You'll never see them again. So, I mean, you haven't given me much to go on here. But if you're saying that the net profit is 438,000 and you're agreeing an asking price of 4 million, that's just ridiculous. That is, you're paying millions of pounds more than you would need to. It's a great deal for the seller. It's a terrible deal for you, Ravi. I may have just saved your bacon on that one, okay?
You listen to the podcast, but maybe you're not sure about the next step. You can have a call with one of Jonathan's team, a one-to-one Zoom call, 10, 12, 15 minutes in duration, where you can discuss your particular situation, what it is that you want to achieve, and maybe how we can help get you there an awful lot faster. So if you're interested in having a call with one of Jonathan's team, then find the link in the podcast description, book your time and date, and get some clarity about your business buying journey.
Mike says, hi, Mike. Mike, you ask really good questions. Mike says, you've also talked about brokers on your podcasts and the positive and negatives of using them. Yeah, just recently, I think. I've seen several opportunities through brokers that would be of interest. How do I get past the broker when they ask for evidence of funds? Well, presumably you don't have funds, which is why you want to avoid that. Can I just say, Mike, you've never bought a business before, it sounds like. You've never bought a business before. Why are you making it so difficult on yourself? Going through business brokers, it will be a nightmare. It won't happen. It won't have none. So my mastermind clients are made up of people who've never bought a business before. If people have bought a business before, they go straight into my inner circle group. But if they haven't bought a business before and they're in mastermind, not one single person buys a business through a broker. All the success stories, we've got over 1,000 testimonials and case studies now, okay? That's a lot. None of them do them through brokers. So it's only people outside of mastermind look at business brokers because, quite frankly, that's what all you've got to work with when you don't have the training, when you don't have the knowledge. So, Mike, I would forget it and I'd do what we call go off market, speak to owners directly, okay? Isata says, thank you for answering the question earlier. Storm says, hi, Storm. Storm says, what's the general route to purchase since it's always based on a loan? No, it isn't. Storm, it's not always based on a loan. I actually encourage people on their first deal to not use any third-party finance at all. We can do it without third-party finance. Slavo says, hi, Slavo, says, what's the minimum requirement, and then in brackets financial, to consider buying a business? Do you mean, Slavo, that how much money you need to have? Is that what you mean? If that's what you're asking me, then you don't need any, because everything we do makes the business acquisition self-funding. So it doesn't require you to put money in. That's the whole sort of angle that we take. And all those case studies and testimonials I've been talking about, that they're all people buying businesses. And yeah, I do have some very wealthy clients. Well done to them, but they need to keep their money in the bank. And I have clients who, my best example always, I love this example, is someone who, very messy divorce, absolutely stony broke, living on universal credit in a caravan. And his first deal was a 7 million revenue, £1 million profit deal. Do you think that changed his life? Of course it did. But he didn't have any money to put in. The people who do the best deals are the people who have to be creative. The people who have to acquire the knowledge to be able to be creative. And Philip Pammett says, what's the closing date for Mastermind 2026? As soon as it's full, 50 places, as soon as they're gone. Every single person on Mastermind works with me directly. So we don't have like 100, 300 people, because I couldn't do it. So, and was it Storm asking about VIP Plus? VIP clients have my WhatsApp. So it's by definition a small group of people. So Philip, as soon as the places are full. So if you're interested, have a chat with someone now, maybe this afternoon even. I'll give you a place to book a call with someone later on. Ravi says, how do you make yourself credible if the seller does his due diligence on you and finds you've never bought a business? Okay. Several things. First of all, everyone is a first-time buyer at some point, okay? Everyone starts a business for the first time. Everyone buys a house for the first time. Everyone buys a business for the first time. There is no shame in being a first-time buyer. But that's different to credibility. You're absolutely right. If you don't have credibility, then you're never going to be doing a deal. Now, I've got a 21-step system that I teach people to buy a business. And step one is all about defining exactly what you need to do to reach your financial goal, get that freedom, get out of your day job, grow your existing business, whatever it might be. Step two is all about credibility. It's what you say, the way you say it, the way you present yourself. That is what makes the difference. So Ravi, not having bought a business before doesn't hold you back. What holds you back is not knowing what to say and what to do. It's not having enough knowledge. Kazim says, where can we find off-market deals, businesses for sale? Well, they aren't listed because the whole point is they're off-market. If they were listed, they'd be on-market, and they're the ones you need to avoid. So we've got 7 methods of finding businesses. I don't want to turn this into too much of a sort of a seminar, but if you're coming to my foundation course, that's a big chunk of that, okay? Sai says, to reduce risk, is it always better to do an asset purchase as opposed to a share purchase? And what are the advantages of a share purchase? Okay. Asset purchases are usually what we call carve-outs, where you're buying part of a business from someone. Asset purchases are when we buy from LLPs or from sole traders. Share purchases are when we buy the limited company. I used to strongly advocate asset purchases, but there are downsides. You don't have the credit history of the company. There's a lot of fiddling around with novation of contracts. So typically a share purchase is absolutely fine. And you say reducing risk. Well, that's what your due diligence, that's what DD, due diligence, is there for. Longhorn says, what's the best way to build and structure a team to run a buy and build strategy without giving away equity? Oh, you don't need to give away equity. You just pay people. As simple as that. You pay them rather than giving them shares in the business. Yeah. Mike says, would you always advise to focus on one or two sectors for outreach? I'm always keen to learn, and my background is in operations. Oh, nice one. Good skill to have, which could apply to any business, correct? So I don't really have a sector preference, but presumably you run operations in a certain type of business, but more of a preference for localish businesses because you've got a young family, you don't want to travel. I get that. So have I. What would you advise, please? Yeah, absolutely. Focus on one or two sectors. I don't know if you're coming on any of my training, Mike, but we teach something called the 1,000 letter strategy, which means that you've let the sector find you. A lot of people worry about finding the right sector. I say, don't worry about it. Let the sector find you. Right. A couple more questions here. Some good ones today. Longhorn says, I'm a first-time buyer pursuing a buy and build, targeting businesses 5 million to 10 million EBITDA. Really? Okay. And 7+ years trading. 7, that's very specific. Trading history. How do I secure funding and establish credibility with lenders, brokers, and sellers? Okay. So you have the knowledge, if I can read between the lines, Longhorn, you have the knowledge. And do you mind if I just challenge? We don't know each other, but do you mind if I just push back a little bit challenging here? You're telling me that you've got the knowledge to buy a business that's making 5 to 10 million pounds profit, okay, but you don't know how to get funding and establish credibility. That doesn't make sense. It's like saying, I'm going to go and buy this 10 million pound house, but sorry, can someone just explain to me how I get a mortgage? I mean, the two things don't go together. It feels like you're running before you can walk. I encourage people to go bigger than they would have done if they were by themselves. The average revenue of a business that the first-time buyer buys in Mastermind is about 2 million. So that means some people a lot more and some people less, okay? So the average, that sits in the middle. So you're going big, which is great, but it sounds like you don't have the knowledge. It sounds like you don't have the contacts. Longhorn, could you please, if you're serious about this, I need you to speak to Jeremy this morning or Jamie Lee this afternoon, okay? I'll tell you how to do that in a moment because you should be doing that. You should be doing that. I've answered that one there. Great questions. Great questions. Okay. Longhorn says thank you. Right. I can tell that we've got a lot of people here who are really interested in doing this. Okay. 40 minutes having a coffee with me or a lemsip is probably, to be fair, more realistic at the moment, is not going to change anything for you. Okay. What happens next, the next thing you do straight after this is going to make the biggest difference. Now, we've got some options. Now, you've done all the free stuff. You've done all the YouTube. You've done all the podcast. That gets you so far. If you want to take the next step, there's going to be a small investment. But the good news is that investment could start with £49. So I'm in Manchester, in London in the next couple of weeks doing an evening event, about 5 o'clock to about 8 o'clock. It's 49 quid. Come along, meet me, be in a room with 25 other people doing exactly the same thing, and let's spend the evening together. And let's take this from a webinar where you're doing 3 other things at the same time to something where we can actually make a difference. Now, if you want more than that, spend 3 days with me. In a couple of weeks' time, I've got a 3-day live program. It's £600. For £600, spend 3 days with me. That covers your lunches, it covers your dinners, it covers your refreshments, it covers me, it covers my mastermind clients who are going to be in the room, who are going to be sitting with you and helping you, okay? I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know to get started. But some people say, I don't want just 3 days. I want a year with you. I want you to actually hold my hand through the entire process. Then that's my 12-month mastermind. That's at 10K. That's for the really serious people. And if you want to go first class, then it's the VIP of the diamond. But that is expensive, and that's only for the really serious people. So look, £49 gets you started. So this is what I want you to do if you're interested in one of those options. I want you to go right now to dealmakers.co.uk/clarity. And on that page, you'll see a very simple diary form. And in that diary, you can book a time this morning or this afternoon. It's up to you to spend 15 minutes on a Zoom call with either Jeremy this morning or Jamie Lee this afternoon. It's not a sales pitch. It is you saying, this is what I want to do, and us saying, this is what we think you should do next. And then the next step is up to you. But we call it a clarity call because you're here because you want to buy a business, but you don't quite know what to do next. And what this call would do is give you the clarity to take the next step, whether it's coming to a deal club with us, coming to one of my 3-day foundation courses, or looking at the mastermind option, and we can show you what you need to know about that. So go to dealmakers.co.uk/clarity and book yourself in for a call. Do it now. I mean, there's probably a call slot in like 10, 15 minutes if you want to grab that, or in next hour or later on this afternoon. Do it now, because being on this session with me is not going to change anything. The change happens with the next step, okay? Any questions about those clarity calls? Any questions about how to book the call? Any questions about the page that you go to? It's up on your screen right now, dealmakers.co.uk/clarity. Mike says, what time can I book for? Okay, Mike, when you go to that page, you'll see all the available slots. But only do this if you're interested in taking the next step. I mean, if you're just here for the entertainment and to listen to me croaking at you, then don't do it. But if you're serious about taking the next step, go to dealmakers.co.uk/clarity, and that will help you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've loved having my Lensip with you this morning. We'll do it all again soon, no doubt, at some point. But for those of you who are serious, look, let's take this next step together. Let me help you. Let me support you. Let me help you get that first deal done. It sounds like some of you, you've got the idea, you've got the ambition, but you don't yet have the knowledge, and you certainly don't have the support. I can give both of those to you. So go to dealmakers.co.uk/clarity, and let's get clear on the next step. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon. Thank you. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Buying Strategies. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. And remember, for more resources and guidance on buying a business, visit dealmakers.co.uk. Have you downloaded your free business buying toolkit yet? It's packed with resources to help you close your next deal. Get it now at dealmakerspodcast.co.uk. We're back in a fortnight. Until then, here's to your next successful acquisition.